Hi, bookish friends. This is Michelle. My channel is Literary Me. And today I wanted to do a very kind of non-committal TBR for March. Just show you the books I've pulled from my own shelf that I want to get to this month. And I have chosen some books that could accommodate whatever mood I happen to be in. So, because it's my goal to have my reading dictate what kind of videos I make rather than having my video TBR dictate what I read, if that makes any sense at all. So yeah, I just thought I'd come on here and share with you my potential books I might read this month. So I'm really happy spring is here. I don't know about you, but yeah. First book up I have is a nonfiction book from Maggie called I Am. This is her own true story of 17 brushes with death that she has had in her life. I've been wanting to read this for years now. I think I saw this on a booktuber video. Oh, it's got to be 5 years ago or something like that. Anyway, in this book, on 17 occasions, Maggie has stared death in the face and lived to tell the tale. In this astonishing memoir, she shares the near-death experiences that have punctuated and defined her life. The childhood illness that left her bedridden for a year, a teenage yearning to escape that nearly ended in disaster, an encounter with a disturbed man on a remote path, and the daily struggle to protect her own daughter from a condition that leaves her unimaginably vulnerable to life's myriad of dangers. Need I say more? This sounds really interesting. I often find that life is stranger than fiction, and I have a feeling this book will reinforce that kind of belief I have. So I Am by Maggie Farrell. The next book I have is a mystery. It starts off with a suspicious death. And this book, called The Night in Question by Susan Fletcher, takes place at a nursing home. Now, I haven't personally had grandparents in my life for a very long time. So I find myself sometimes craving that kind of warmth and compassion and gentle relationship, or, wisdom and the storytelling of an older person kind of thing. And I do love to read about senior citizens, being that I have a soft spot for them. So yeah, this book is, like I said, a murder mystery. We start off with a man falling and having an accidental death. That's not a spoiler, it's on the first page. And then we follow 87-year-old Flory, who sets about investigating what exactly happened and comes to learn that this death may have not been an accident after all. This seems like a edgier mystery. It's not really a cozy mystery per se, but yeah, it's quite a lengthy book. I'm kind of surprised. I'm thinking, I wonder how much story could happen in here. It must be pretty interesting. So I'm really looking forward to this. I think this will be the perfect book for the right mood. If I'm in the mood for a book like this, I think it'll hit just right. So yeah, it's on my stack. Next book I have is a thriller, a domestic thriller, very popular author, Freida MacFadden, and that's The Perfect Son. In this, we follow Liam, who has been accused of a crime, and his mother, Erica. I love a book with a deranged child or a problematic child who has issues, and this seems like it might just scratch the domestic thriller itch perfectly if I read this on a day when I'm craving something like this. A lot of people really enjoyed this book, so I'm hoping to get to this month. The next one I have is something different that I picked up at the thrift store. This book is called The Ruins of California. This one is set in California in the 1970s. Need I say more? That's my favorite vibe, if you will. I love that era that has a specific flavor, 70s California, Laurel Canyon music, the residual hippie vibes, the fashion, the hairstyles, the cultural things that were happening at the time. I just find it all very interesting. And in this one, we are following a family with the last name Ruin. So that's where the title comes from. And we follow a precocious young girl named Inez. Her father, Paul, is a self-obsessed, intrusive... Sorry, let me start that again. Her father, Paul, is self-obsessed, intrusive, and brilliant. He's also twice divorced, leaving Inez to bounce between two worlds, embracing neither. That of Paul's bohemian life in San Francisco and the more sedate world of her mother, Connie, who plays tennis and attends EST seminars in the suburbs. As Inez progresses through high school, we are witness to a remarkable family saga that renders a strange and fascinating slice of America in transition. So it sounds like a really character-driven, maybe more so than plot, which I do enjoy sometimes, a family coming-of-age kind of drama story. So yeah, it kind of seems cinematic almost, like it might make a good movie. So I'm looking forward to reading this one too. Next one I have is a departure for me. I've heard quite a bit about this little novel called Headshot by Rita Bullwinkel. In this book, we are following 8 amateur female boxers as they travel to Reno, Nevada for a big national championship. I know nothing about boxing other than they just hit each other with gloves in a ring, so I'm hoping that I'll enjoy this because it seems like a really intimate portrait of these 8 different, multiple POVs, which I do like. And yeah, it just sounds interesting. I said departure because I don't typically read something like this. Just the subject matter would normally put me off, but because I've heard good things, I'm willing to give Headshot a shot. Next one up, very popular, well-known book. I have read one of her previous books, and I'm talking about Mona Awad and Rouge. This sounds right up my alley. I love a quirky character. I love a cultish vibe. I love a intense relationship. I previously read Bunny by Mona Awad, really liked it. She is really good at introducing things that you don't expect and twisty psychological drama kind of thing, elements. So I'm thinking I'll really enjoy this one. We're following here Belle, who is obsessed with beauty, and her mother Noelle, who goes to, Noelle mysteriously dies. Belle returns to Southern California, grappling with the lingering questions surrounding her mother's death. Soon after the funeral, a cryptic video about a transformative spa experience lures Belle to La Maison de Méduse, a lavish culty spa to which her mother was devoted. I love how the word culty is actually in the synopsis. That sold me on this book right there. So hoping to get to Rouge by Mona Awad this month. Next one up I have is a book called Small Game Hunting at the Local Coward Gun Club. This is a fairly recent release. I think came out in 2023. Here we are following a group of people in a restaurant in a snowstorm. I'm thinking it's giving me Taylor Adams' No Exit vibe. Quirky cast of characters. We follow one of the waitress at this place as she's kind of eavesdropping on people's conversations. And the vibe gets more and more sinister the deeper you get into this book. It's a very odd synopsis, but I'll just read you a little blurb of it here. A fierce blizzard is threatening to tear a strip off the city, while inside the Hazel restaurant, a storm system of sex, betrayal, addiction, and hurt is breaking overhead. Iris, a young hostess, is forced to pull a double despite resolving to avoid the charming chef and his wealthy restaurateur wife. Just tables over, Damien, a hungover and self-loathing server, is trying to navigate a potential punch-up with a pair of lit customers who remain oblivious to the rising temperature in the dining room. So it's, got that closed room kind of brewing intensity feel of a bunch of people who don't really like each other particularly and could be very interesting. There's no mention of hunting or killing animals in here, so I'm not sure what the title has to do with the actual story. but I'd be interesting to find out. So this is going on my March potential reads list for sure. The next book I have is something really different again. I haven't read a futuristic dystopian sci-fi book in the longest time, and this has been on my radar for about a year. I'm talking about The Future by Catherine Leroux, translated from the French by Susan Ouriou. This one was a Canada Reads selection. That also appeals to me because historically I have gotten on well with Canada Reads picks. So I'm hoping I'll have the same experience with this book. In this one, we are following a grandmother named Gloria, in a futuristic Detroit called Fort Detroit after this apocalypse has gone down. She goes to Fort Detroit to try and find her two missing granddaughters. They've gone missing, and she thinks they might be there because children are living a feral lifestyle in the forest, but they are managing to survive and provide very well for themselves somehow amid the chaos. In this world, burned out, bombed out buildings have the ability to rejuvenate themselves somehow, either through magic or technology, or that's where the sci-fi element comes in. I'm not sure what, but it sounds really interesting. I'll just read you a little blurb here. So Gloria arrives looking for answers and her missing granddaughters, and at first she finds only a hungry mouse in the derelict home where her daughter was murdered. But the neighbors take pity on her, and she turns to their resilience and impressive gardens for sustenance. When a strange intuition sends her into the woods of Park Rouge, where the city's orphaned and abandoned children are rumored to have created their own society, she can't imagine the strength she will find. A richly imagined story of community and a plea for persistence in the face of our uncertain future. The Future is a lyrical testament to the power we hold to protect the people and places we love together. Sounds pretty fantastic to me. So, putting this on the stack, hoping to read this in March. Next up, I have a classic book. I've never read from this author before. When I was in school, we were never assigned entire books to read. I'm not sure why. Back in the day, that's how they did things in English class. However, I've been wanting to read from this guy for the longest time. I have another of his books on my shelf, but I thought I'd start off with this one because it's a little shorter, a little less of a commitment, and I am talking about The Grapes of Wrath by John Steinbeck. I'm going into this completely blind. There is a very lengthy introduction to this one. This is all introduction. I'm not going to read any of it. I'm not going to read the synopsis. The only things I've gleaned from watching other people's booktube videos about this is that it's set in the Depression era. We're following a family of people, I think, and we go from Oklahoma to California. That's it. That's all I know. I read about a paragraph of East of Eden, and I thought, okay, I'm totally going to get on with this writing style. I loved it, that little blurb that I read of it. So yeah, I thought I'd start with this one and just go in open mind and see what I think of it. This, I'm feeling kind of a summer vibe from this book. I don't know. If I don't read it in March, for sure, I'd like to read it sometime this year. Next up, I have a historical fiction novel that's getting a lot of really good reviews lately. I've seen it featured on BookTube a little bit. I think I read something online about it somewhere, but I'm talking about The Frozen River by Ariel Lawhon. This one we are following. It's in Maine in 1789. So I automatically love that. I love Maine. I love 1789 as a time period. When the Kennebec River freezes, entombing a man in ice, Martha Ballard is summoned to examine the body. As a midwife and healer, her diary is a record of every birth and death, crime and debacle that unfolds in the close-knit community of Hallowell. Months earlier, Martha documented the details of an alleged rape committed by two of the town's most respected gentlemen, one of whom has now been found dead in the ice. But when a male physician declares a death accidental, Martha is forced to investigate on her own. Need I say more? Winter, murder mystery, Maine, 1789, historical drama, murder mystery. Sounds like I will really enjoy this. So hoping to read this sometime, potentially in March. Next one I have is, I make no secret of the fact that I absolutely love Stephen King. And I wouldn't even classify him as a horror writer necessarily, because he's so much more than that to me. Anyway, I'll have to do a whole video about Stephen King, but for now, I'm hoping to read the little pulp crime novella called The Colorado Kid. He came out with a series of these a few years ago. I read one called Later. Absolutely loved it. That was a one-sitting 5-star read. I'm hoping I'll enjoy this one. This was actually written and published a long time ago, but for the first time, he put it in this type of a format. And there are new illustrations inside. Lots of great artwork. I love that as well. But this one takes place on an island off the coast of Maine, of course, where a man is found dead. There's no identification on the body, only a dogged work of a pair of local newspapermen, and a graduate student in forensics turns up any clues. And it's more than a year before the man is identified. And that's just the beginning of the mystery. From what I can get from the synopsis, this seems like a mystery within a mystery within a mystery, like peeling the layers of an onion, and I'm all for that. This sounds great. If it's not great, it's not much of a commitment. It's a teeny tiny little book, and I feel like I have to read this as a fan of Stevie Baby. So, Stephen King, The Colorado Kid. Let me know if you've read this. The last one I have here that I could potentially read in March is Inspection by Josh Malerman. This is a wild card book for me because so far I've only read Bird Box. I loved Bird Box by him. I tried to read another of his books and it just did not, it wasn't up to snuff for me. Like I think I might have DNF'd it. I don't even remember the title of it, to be honest. It was that forgettable. So I picked this up at the thrift. It was only $7. So I thought, okay, I'll give this one a go. And it sounds weird. It sounds like we're following a boy at an institution. I'll just read a little blurb. Jay is a student at a local school deep in a forest far from the rest of the world. Okay, I love that. I love the deep in the forest setting. Jay is only one of 26 students, all of whom think of the school's enigmatic founder as their father. There's the cultish vibe that I like. Jay's peers are the only family he has ever had. The students are being trained to be prodigies of art, science, athletics, and their life at the school is all they know and all they are allowed to know. But Jay suspects that there is something out there beyond the pines that the founder does not want him to see, and he's beginning to ask questions. What is the real purpose of this place? Why can the students never leave? And what secrets is their father, their so-called father, hiding from them? Sounds kind of interesting. Loving the cover. So I could potentially read this in March. I think this is the type of book I'd really have to be in the mood for, though, as Josh Malerman's writing is also very unique in that it's very kind of pointed and how do I describe it? Yeah, it's not for everybody, that's for sure. So I'll give this a shot and see what happens. So those are all the books I have potentially planned for March. I am currently reading Blob, A Love Story by Maggie Sue. Currently about 40 pages in. Loving it. It's fantastic. And so the month is already off to a great start, I have to say. Let me know what you're planning on reading on March, if you have read any of the books I mentioned, and happy March, happy spring. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video. Bye.